We're coming, and we ain't backing down.
We don't need a bunch of cats in here looking in the mirror.
Everybody just do your job. You understand that?
Hey, will you shut up?
I'm bitterly disappointed with the officiating today.
Guys being dudes.
And they run through our like through a tin horn, man.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Richard Johnson. Thank you, Stephen Godfrey. I'm Alex Kirshner. We are Split Zone Duo. Richard, are you in range to see those lights up in the sky that everyone's writing all these stories about right now?
Yeah, the drone thing, yes. A little odd, I would say. This was probably last summer. I was in Greenpoint, which is like North Brooklyn, and I was on the water. And it's the water, it's the East River. It's between Manhattan and Brooklyn. And there was something like this. Like, we were looking up in the sky and we're like, wait, what is that? And now it actually makes a lot more sense that this drone thing is going on. So I don't know what's going on. Somebody's spying on us or doing something salacious. I don't know. We'll get to the bottom of it, yeah?
My only thought about it is that people have said that we're giving New Jersey too hard a time about this, and that you'd be weird too if there were lights showing up above your house. My only thought is that I would not be. If there were lights going above my house, I would assume they were not looking at me. I would assume they were looking at my neighbors.
Of course. Of course.
Why?
I'm not that interesting. What are you going to look at me for?
I just think it's going to be it's going to end up being the dumbest thing. It's going to end up being like, I don't know, some teenager in Hackensack is having a good time.
That's my bad.
You guys aren't old enough to remember this, but conspiracies used to be fun and cool. Like, I'm serious. In the 90s, like, I mean, nothing really embodies this more than like the X-Files, or just the idea of like conspiracies not being propagated by the weirdest, ironically, like pro-government people. Like, it's probably going to end up being some giant corporation who's doing something without a permit. And all the people who are convinced that like Joe Biden's scanning your DNA are going to be like left on like realizing it's their side of the ideological fence. Yeah, I didn't know we were going to start the show this way, but I am not worried or giving a shit at all. Also, it's
I'm not at all. This is the first I've discussed. I haven't even discussed this with my fiance. I haven't talked about this. Period. I just wanted Richard's take because he's so close to it.
It's
how could you see things though in like the night sky in Brooklyn?
Good question.
I mean, there's a lot of light. There's a lot of light pollution. They call. I mean, yeah.
But it's the thing is because it's close enough, right? They're not that far away,
right?
Like, but I know what they're talking about. We'll post it on social. I know what
the government.
Speaking of unexplained phenomena, the Indiana Hoosiers are in the college football playoff.
Well done. That's well done.
God damn, he's good.
He's the best in the business, folks.
We taste it. It is the first round of the 12-team college football playoff. It has never happened before. This is our inaugural
for the on-camera crew. There you go.
We're sampling. This is more of a sampler, I would say. A flight, perhaps.
Yeah,
it's going to be fun.
Four playoff games, and then hey, okay, real fast. Was there a bowl game last night?
Yes, West Virginia and Memphis. Memphis is, I believe, 37-5. I saw somewhere under your friend and mine, Ryan Silverfield.
Memphis is 37-5 under Ryan Silverfield. That can't be true.
Check the tape.
I don't think that's true.
Stop the show right now.
Check the tape.
No,
I'm dead serious.
Where did you get 37-5?
Don't leave.
He's 42-20 at Memphis. You're not even close.
He's 42-20. Wait, what is it? The last 2 years?
Oh, yeah.
The last 2 years, they are 21-5, but they're not 37. Under no interval are they 37.
What time did this game start? 8 Eastern?
That's a great question.
Or 8 Central?
This game was still going on when I was getting ready for bed on the West Coast. Whatever.
Okay. So, all right, I'm not crazy here, and I'm not like too old. My awareness of this game as a college football professional was like,
no, it's definitely early. It's definitely early, and it's early because there was a bowl game. There was a non-celebration bowl, Army Navy bowl game on Saturday, and then there's this. They're trying to get them out of the way.
Richard, I saw that one because we left the television on in the den. I walked in and I go, oh, Western Michigan.
Well, it's because they're obviously stacking the deck this weekend with playoff games. And so you've got to move those bowl games off the real estate. So there are some weird double headers next week. There's some bowls this week. They've scrambled things.
My rubric, and we've discussed this before, and I think we're all in agreement, is that the non-championship specific bowls are designed now to service your New Year's, hangover, whatever, or, and more importantly, I think now, it's those nights, like kind of like a couple nights before Christmas, because we're too early right now. That game was on the 17th. But Richard,
December is a bad sports month. It's a bad sports month.
December is a bad sports month?
Yes, man. But besides the NFL, literally besides the NFL,
all right,
December is a bad sports month. If college football was not on until literally January 1st, you have early season hockey, early season NBA, which they invented the NBA Cup for because December is a bad sports month.
We were so close.
And then you have bowl games. Bowl games are literally an invention because December is a bad sports month.
Trey Young on that logo.
December is a bad sports month.
I don't agree with that at all. August is a bad sports month.
Yes.
The purpose of these bowls is for that, like, it's a Christmas oriented thing. I know that's like a lot of people celebrate Christmas, but you have those like maybe a day or two before, all the way until the Catholics' Epiphany. Okay, so it's like usually like around the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th or something. I can't remember. Catholic, whatever. The point is, like, you're gonna have people in your living room. It's gonna be an awkward dynamic. We just had an election. This is where I'm going with this. Bowls are supposed to be when you're like, oh, you remember, and it's like your father-in-law's uncle's best friend's neighbor, and they're over, and they're like, we brought a fruitcake, and everyone's like, and we're like, hey, there's a bowl game on, like and then we all sit there and we watch like 6-6 Eastern Michigan against 6-6 Georgia State. Like, that's why these exist.
Steven, I do want to say that's a really good pull for exactly the two teams that would be in the kind of game you're describing.
Yes, it's not something you would ever watch until you absolutely need to watch it.
Yeah.
Like, you need it because you're like, I can't, somebody's going to bring up the election in 30 seconds.
And it outrates basically every college basketball game that will be played this season.
Yeah. I don't mean to be this anti-college basketball.
But
this is just what I do, where like I'm gonna know about Eastern Michigan and what did I say, Georgia State, and I was on live radio yesterday in Nashville, and I was like, Tennessee's the number 1 team in the country, and they were like, yeah, I don't know, you could have told me any team. You could have been like Seton Hall is number 2. I have no idea.
Yeah, Rick Barnes had a pretty nice second life at Tennessee.
It's
for the
so
college
funny.
Basketball respecters out there.
It's so funny that and I'll bridge this back into the show, guys. Like, all of the gnashing of teeth and all of the insanity down here about the playoff and the SEC and the disrespect. I did look up the top 25 in basketball after I was told about Tennessee. The SEC is like insanely dominant in college basketball right now. And look, whether they want you, like, whether no one's going to agree with what I'm about to say, in Birmingham, no one here gives a shit. like Lexington, Lexington obviously is like its own universe. Okay. And Knoxville sort of, and my favorite is always Auburn. Auburn has talked themselves into being a basketball fan base. Like,
dude, call me Mark. Florida is undefeated right now. Literally undefeated. I think they're 12-0. They just beat North Carolina last night, which I saw only because I got the score alert. Trust me, I was not watching that. Call me March 1st, man. Call me March 1st.
Yeah. I mean,
your attitude is how most people perceive college basketball. That is true. I'm a bit more of a respecter than you, but yeah.
Why is it just so invisible?
It's bad
in the regular
basketball.
Season.
It's bad basketball, and bad basketball is harder to tolerate than bad football because the game is predicated on scoring. When you have stretches of basketball where nobody's scoring, it is unwatchable, man. It's unwatchable.
What I am about to say is not a bit. My alma mater is 16th in the nation.
There is the amount of time it would have taken me to guess that is just. But yeah, man, dang,
Richard, you guys are undefeated. You're 6th in the country.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
man.
I'm telling you,
Joakim Noah, let's go,
yeah, baby. And this is the thing with the boomers do have a point when they say transfer portal ruined college basketball. Like, it's hard to follow,
Really?
guys. All like they are on to something.
Oh, Auburn's
it's a
number 2 in the
combination. I think it's a
I don't
combination.
know. I don't know what you're talking about. We're back up at Maryland this year. We got this.
Are you in the? Are you in the
freshman.
top? Where are you?
Maryland's
Hang
pretty
on.
good this year. Maryland
This is
is
compelling
top
audio.
20 or so. Yeah, I bet this is. We're back up at Maryland. That's all I'm saying.
You are
This
not
young guy.
unlike the other 2 hosts on this show. Your pithy basketball school is not ranked in the top 25.
It couldn't be
All right.
me.
Dude,
Could not be me.
Tennessee, Auburn, Iowa State, okay, Kentucky, Duke, Florida, Alabama, Kansas, Marquette, Oregon. That's like when someone sends me a random screenshot of their NCAA 25 like dynasty or something. You're like, look what we did. Like, what the hell is going on over there? And who's watching this who's watching this basketball? Like, because these rednecks aren't doing it.
People watch college basketball. Just
No
not that
one,
many in the
no
regular
one
season.
in Tuscaloosa gives a shit whether you believe it or not,
Dude,
and they don't even believe it.
Yes. I do think it was funny a couple years ago when Alabama fans were doing the whole "we really care about basketball" thing.
No doubt.
They were really good. They were really good that year, and actually, they're really good all the time now. They have a very effective coach, Nate Oates. But
That's
and Greg Burns, like, we care so much about basketball. But then you notice what they quietly slipped in right around that time was that, you know how we were going to renovate our basketball arena or knock it down or build a new one? They were actually like, you know what? No, we're not. We'll do that later.
The thing that drove me out of sports writing proper, of like working a beat and all that, was like you have to cover college basketball and college baseball seasons at schools that, like, sometimes maybe they most of the schools I worked around gave a lot of attention towards college baseball. I just find it really, really hard to watch. But college basketball season at Southern football schools is depressing. And you're also driving through like ice storms and nobody shows up. No one cares. Last thing I'll say is this. I want to shout out No Escalators on social media, because I feel like I am a kingmaker when it comes to like telling, like saying that someone's a troll god or someone's like a particular kind of personality on the internet. UConn basketball Twitter is one of my favorite, or Blue Sky, whatever you want to call it, is like one of my favorite environments, because they just like unnerve every other traditional basketball fan base. I just want to shout them out. I know all my Indiana people. Sorry, Connor, they're going to get mad about that. But like, UConn is, I guess, not thought of as a dynasty. Is there a football comp for this?
No.
They've got like 5 in our lifetime.
Dude, UConn men's basketball is the most effective national championship winning program of this millennium. It's not close. And yet they are not considered a blue blood needle mover in the way that Duke, Kentucky, Carolina, Kansas
Right.
are.
That's what,
You know what it might be, honestly? It might be LSU. Because LSU's got 3 since 2000, and they hadn't done a damn thing before that.
and
they just
pre-integration,
and they just will figure it out. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's not a great comp, but it's close enough.
I feel like you've made everyone in that comparison mad, and I'm proud of it.
That's right.
Like,
That's right.
there's no way out of that without someone just being like, "Are you fucking kidding?"
Post it.
This is going to be one of the most alienating 12 minutes of audio
No,
for a
it's
lot of our
not.
listeners
This
that we've
is
ever done. I'm
good,
excited to
baby.
hear feedback.
This is good.
All right.
Someone hashtag. All right, everyone, hit Alex up. Hashtag SZD hoops.
Oof.
Do that.
Go Hawks.
So here's my question as we pivot to the college football playoff. On Monday night, I watched Conclave. Pretty good flick. It's getting a lot of buzz for the awards. Have you guys seen Conclave yet?
I thought we were talking
I don't
about
even-
football now. You
I don't
just
even know.
said
Oh, we're
this was
getting
a weird.
You'll see. I'm getting there. I'm wondering what
Like a
will be the
Chappelle
more
level setup.
entertaining. What will be the more entertaining drama set against a Catholic institution that I watched this week? Conclave, 2-hour movie, or
I'm out.
the Indiana Hoosiers in South Bend. That was a
fear
pretty good
that-
movie. It's going to make my top of 2024 list. So this has to be a strong game. Richard, will it be?
I fear that Conclave may have had more tension for longer in it.
Correct. Yes, that's
There's a
very
lot
good
of tension
joke,
in Conclave
and,
right to the end.
That's,
A lot of tension
That's
in
my worry
Conclave,
here.
too.
I'll do this real fast. The table set, and we can. We'll do the bowls after the non-playoffs.
Yes.
There are, in my opinion, I'm super fine with the matchups. This is not a referendum on the matchups. We're past that. Okay, we're all moving on. In terms of compelling television product, it's, for me, Tennessee, Ohio State above everyone else in terms of like
Yeah.
a game I'm super excited about. And then the other 3 are a significant measure below that, because maybe it's Notre Dame at night and weather. I haven't, like, the casual interest is certainly there. Obviously, the television interest will be there. but it increasingly feels like of these 4 games, there's Tennessee, Ohio State, and then there's these other 3 that could get away from. Things could get less compelling. Quarter hour ratings might not be good.
It's the playoff, the this playoff, where like you had one semifinal that was just, boy, howdy, what are we doing here?
Alabama,
and then the other
Michigan
would be
State Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, and then the other one would be a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
The Bama Cincinnati one where you were just like, eesh.
Or a number of different Notre Dame games, actually.
Yeah, Notre Dame. Hell, the Georgia-Michigan one was an absolute bludgeoning.
No, the secret of the 14 playoff was that the semifinals, more often than not, were not very fun.
I mean, you would have, like, hang on. When we had
Oklahoma, Georgia, that was fun.
Yeah, I was to say the Oklahoma, Georgia Rose, the Phantom call or the no call, the Ohio State, Clemson. Ohio State and Clemson played some bangers against each other.
Ohio State, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia.
Clemson also shut them out in the Fiesta. I was there. That was a miserable game.
Yeah,
you're right, Alex. It's what you're saying. More duds than hits is what you're saying.
Remember the Kelly Bryant Bama Clemson one?
Yeah, sat on him. Sat on him. Bama was throwing touchdowns to defensive linemen in that game.
Okay, so what are we saying? 1/3, 2/3?
Yeah. So
which is exactly what I just described. What did I just describe? A quarter to 3/4, basically.
But I will say, if any of the 3 that we think are going to be dog ass have a chance to be decent, it's this one.
Okay.
Or at the very least, one of those like, I mean, honestly, similar to the Ohio State game, where Indiana was not in it. They were not in it. They were getting worked, but respectable enough on the scoreboard.
I would also say this, though, about Notre Dame, Indiana. I have little faith in those 3 games, but I would have more faith in Penn State SMU as compelling TV product, or even Texas Clemson as compelling TV product over this one. And I'm not trying to be fatalist for the Hoosiers, but I think, Richard, you said this. This is just a matchup thing.
Yeah.
Like this is from a defensive standpoint for Notre Dame. This is just like, this is not who you wanted to draw if you were Indiana, is what I'm trying to say.
Notre Dame has pulled off an absolute magic trick this year. Notre Dame, that institution, is flying under the radar in a way that I didn't really think possible. Like, they took the worst loss of any title contender by leagues and bounds.
Hey, real fast, can you guys name real fast without looking when that was? Because I did it yesterday. It blew my mind.
Yeah, I was going to say it was like week 1 or 2, right?
It's week 2.
Yeah,
everyone seems to think it was at the midway point. For sure,
No.
It's like our collective brain changed or something. It's a long time ago. They're
not that team anymore.
What I'm saying is they have been marginally or incrementally or exponentially better week by week by week since then.
They have absolutely dominated pretty much everybody since then. I know they had
Lincoln got some points on them.
Lincoln got some points, and Louisville was feisty, and that was kind of an ugly, sloppy game. There was some weather going on there, and Notre Dame got out of that. But other than that, they have. I watched them tear Army limb from limb. They blocked that punt in the first quarter against Army, and before they even scored the 14th point, we were like, "Oh, well, this is over." Like, I mean, Notre Dame's good, man. And look, I may be a little over by my skis with picking them to be the national champion in our like CBS like thing that we did, like pick the bracket or whatever. It's on my Instagram that I picked the bracket. There's some upsets on there. But I took Notre Dame to take a run. Notre Dame's got a path here, man. They have this game, then they play Georgia. Carson Beck's not going to play in that game. Newsflash. I don't know who we're all kidding there. I'm not reporting. I'm just like, come on. And then they're sitting in the semifinal.
Yeah.
They have a path.
The Beck thing, I think that a lot of Georgia fans who are also Braves fans are probably making this connection. When you start talking about a guy's arm the way you talk about a pitcher going on the IL, think about it. It's hard, hard to see. Carson Beck has an elbow injury of some significance, right?
No, I mean, the pitcher, are you saying
Carson
zero
Beck,
effectiveness in the what you're saying is like you do not expect him to play?
I do not expect him to play. When you hear elbow injury and we don't know when he's back, in baseball, that does not typically mean he'll be back in 3 weeks.
Was this an
In
obtuse
baseball-
Spencer Strider reference? I'm proud of you.
No, not at all.
Go Clemson.
Although,
He'll be
yes,
cheering. He'll be cheering for Clemson this weekend. He's a Clemson Tiger.
That's a great point.
Um,
But it's
yeah,
just
I
yeah.
got
So
you. Yeah,
back to Notre Dame though.
yeah.
I think that to borrow a Richard frame of analysis, there's 4 ways every game could go. Each team wins close or wins by a lot. I think the one that is not possible is Indiana winning by a lot, but I wouldn't rule out the rock fight angle here.
No.
Won by Indiana. Indiana's rush defense itself has been great this year. Great.
That problem is, again, I'm worried about it in this spot.
Yes.
I'm worried about it with this.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Because
I'm
basically their
worried about it
solution to the NIU existential crisis was we're going to mash.
Yeah, Notre Dame does have some injuries that are worth talking about here. One of them is Jeremiah Love. They have 2 running backs. He's one of them. He's probably going to play, it sounds like. I think the big one and maybe the most problematic for Indiana is the return of Howard Cross, the defensive tackle.
That is a serious issue for them.
For Indiana, that's a problem. Indiana, I mean, we've seen this in the Michigan and Ohio State games. I've seen enough to believe that Justice Ellison and company are not going to be able to move the ball on the ground against Notre Dame. I've seen enough. They effectively could not move it that way against the two good rush defenses they've played. Not going to call Michigan necessarily a good team overall, but they can still thump on defense. That's not the problem.
Right.
So for Indiana to do this, you need Curtis Rourke and Elijah Surratt and company to have a really major downfield passing game. That's hard too. Notre Dame's got a great secondary. It's all hard when you're playing a defense like this.
I also think with Howard Cross back, I think Riley Mills is going to have an absolute evening. Like I really like Ryan Mills. He's not your best pass rusher. He's not your best defensive lineman. But if he's your second best defensive lineman, man.
Yeah, Riley Mills can play. Yeah. They got guys at all 3 levels who can play. They've got the linebacker. Kaiser is a really good player. They got like multiple NFL secondary players. It's tough. I do feel fine about the Indiana defense, though. I think that they're going to get some pressure on Riley Leonard, who, by the way, hasn't been good. It's kind of funny that Notre Dame's been this good while he hasn't been good. And
There's a game script. There's a game script component of things. Here that Notre Dame is going to have to contend with that the rest of the way. There's a game script component of things. Notre Dame does not push the ball down the field. Their passing game is not explosive.
Right.
I do. Okay, that's fair.
So there's like a Will Howard-esque sort of time bomb where it's just not in the first round. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but if Riley Leonard gets going, especially with his legs, I don't know, man. I don't know.
If Riley Leonard gets going, especially with his legs, what a year it's been.
I got worries for Indiana.
You're not wrong. I just wanted to say it out loud. That's all.
But because of the rock fight potential, not going to count them out here. They could make it really, really ugly. There is one of these games where I'm writing off the lower seed beforehand, but it's not going to be this one. I do think that they are a worthy underdog. I think Notre Dame is a matchup problem for them. We'll see.
Yeah.
Good luck, Hoosiers. I think most of America is rooting for you. I'm not even anti-Notre Dame, but obviously rooting for Indiana here.
Yeah. Oh,
Not even close.
dude, if they won this game, like, that would be amazing.
If they won this game, it's the biggest Indiana football, well, at least until the next week, the biggest Indiana football win ever.
Yeah. Oh, in school history?
Yeah. Dude, everything Indiana does from this point forward.
700 losses?
Yeah. It will also be it's the funniest result possible.
Yes.
Indiana.
Especially in the first year of this format. Absolutely.
Indiana beats Notre Dame.
It's just that, like, we have 15-odd, 20-odd years of modern football narrative against Notre Dame and the number 1 team in this entire bracket, that they're not real or physical or SEC enough in their lines. And this is the year that Notre Dame and Oregon at different levels have dispelled that narrative, broken that narrative.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel better. That's why I feel better for the Irish than I ever have in a playoff scenario.
The Georgia Bulldogs do await at the Sugar Bowl, which will be obviously a home game for Georgia, whoever wins this one. Home field crew, good luck, Godspeed, have fun. We're rooting for you.
Yeah.
Stay warm. Can't really imagine that home field is not going to have one of the most fun weekends in the history of that company. They're doing a couple of events in South Bend. Details are on their Instagram page at Home Field Apparel. If you go and check them out, Home Field puts on a great event. We're going to be with them in January in Atlanta. If Indiana gets on a run here, what acts of corporate goodwill could Home Field get up to? I don't know. They're probably unfathomable ones. I haven't talked to Connor about it, but you're going to get a CEO in a good mood if Indiana can get a little run going in this college football playoff. Promo code is SCD20 for 20% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com. And if you're in South Bend, check them out. Go to their Instagram. Details are there. They got multiple events on Thursday and Friday. No question, it's going to be a lot of fun.
I heard that if Indiana wins this playoff game, that like all of home field's going to be, it's like 90% off for the rest of the month. I think. I heard
101%. I heard they pay
really?
you.
They're going to give you money and shirts.
That's what I hear. I don't know. Don't mean that in any actionable way, in case anyone was thinking about that.
We haven't stressed the terms of our agreement quite the way Fullcast has, but we'll get there.
Not actionable. All right, number 11 SMU at number 6 Penn State. This is on Saturday, the early game. The winner goes to the Fiesta against Boise State. Do you know what channel this game is on? Bit of a curveball for people who have not been following broadcast news.
This is one of 2 TNT games.
One of
the Turner Network
TNTs.
Television?
Because ESPN is maintaining that NFL relationship.
Shawshank Redemption.
Couple things at play here. The NFL has an ESPN relationship that ESPN wants to take care of. Turner, TNT parent, pretty sad about sports these days. They're losing the NBA.
Their fault.
Well, they're losing the NBA, but they are sort of staying in the NBA business because they're going to license inside the NBA.
They have hockey now, right?
ESPN.
Yes, they have some hockey now.
They got some Mountain West football. They got some things, but
got the Shawshank Redemption.
Gone are the days of the NBA being a regular on TNT the way that it's been. Also, remember when I was a kid, I could watch the Braves on Turner, in Pittsburgh, it was that weird thing. Anyway, TNT is
the way America
TNT
should be.
Buying, sublicensing a couple of these games. It's going to be ESPN Cruise, so not that anyone has a hard time finding games on their dial anymore, but this will be on TNT. Richard, is it possible that we will get a Category 5 James Franklin event?
I need you to just sell. I would back up and just say, hang on. Can you sell me on this as a? Is that the sell for this being an interesting game?
Yeah, but also
we have reports of unchecked confidence in Cappy Valley. Is kind of what I was getting at.
Oh, we definitely do.
Yeah,
I think the Bo Pribula thing is sneaky, pretty important. Bo Pribula, Penn State's backup quarterback, is transferring and leaving the program. He will not play in this game. It's the second year in a row a backup quarterback on a playoff team left his team before the playoff. Malik Murphy did it last year with Texas. When Malik Murphy had started games, plural, for Texas last year. And Quinn Ewers, he is a guy who gets injured. That is a fact of the matter. Or what? Well, still is. Yes, I was going to say was. That's not true. So Bo Pribula is in a little bit of a different spot because he hasn't started games, but he came in significant relief for Drew Aller in the Wisconsin game. But he has a significant role on this team as a backup quarterback in a running package, or a predominantly running package for Andy Kotelnicki's very, very strange offense. This guy was going to play in this game, I would say, beyond a shadow of a doubt. So, expect your heavy dose of Tyler Warren Wildcat quarterback. But I do think that not having Bo Pribula, it doesn't tank this offense, but it does change the way Penn State's going to approach this game. It's something less for SMU to game plan for and to deal with. It's going to make it, at least on edgewise, a little bit more difficult for Penn State to run the ball. Now, with all that being said, I don't think SMU can hang with them in the trenches. You saw that against Clemson. Clemson just couldn't score because, Clemson.
Richard, could you explain something to me real quick before we move on about this? Tell me why, not to shift blame onto him at all, but just why it is taken as an article of faith that Pribula can't stay with Penn State while he's in the portal. We got Zoom.
No,
Western Kentucky's quarterback is in the transfer portal. He's playing a much less consequential bowl game this week. I'm confused about why this. Kenny Dillingham talked about it this week. He was like, if Arizona State players are in the portal, stay on this ride with us, you're part of the 2024 team, then go. Why is it just the way that it is that the status quo is that if you're in the portal, you're leaving?
Yeah,
even if it's the playoff.
Some of it is like I wondered why James Franklin couldn't have done something like that. But James Franklin, and to his credit, in his press conference, did not blame Pribula at all. He was like, "It's a system." Pribula was made to feel that he had to go to his next spot. I think there's a dual thing here. One is the enrollment thing. You do have to enroll in classes because we're still pretending that there's a vestige of school going on here. So you do have to enroll in classes, be on campus, all that sort of stuff before whenever the semester starts. And if you win 2 games, you're still with your team. I mean, the semifinal is on the 8th, right? The Orange Bowl's on the 8th, and the Cotton Bowl's on the 9th. That's after school starts for plenty of places. So there's that. The other thing is just from a schematic sense, I mean, there is something to be said for if you are a quarterback getting to your school in January. Like Bryce Underwood is enrolling this week at Michigan, for instance. Like he is going to practice with Michigan for their bowl game. This is a low-key thing that happens at a lot of these places. These December signees are at their places early, and they actually bowl practice with a lot of their teams throughout bowl prep. And it's a thing a lot of people don't realize. So, not to say Bro Pribula is going to go to a place and play in a bowl game for another team. That's not what I mean. But there is that element of things too. I understand while I do not enjoy, endorse, or appreciate what Bro Pribula is doing, I do understand that the parameters create a situation, I guess, pretty much like James Franklin is doing, where like the parameters of the situation are bad and are the real problem here.
I wrote about this for the Washington Post, talking about kind of explaining the Marshall situation with the Independence Bowl, and now this. This is a system that's not going to get fixed anytime soon, because it's not so much a system as it is a calendar. God knows we've beaten this to death, and if you're an SCD listener, you already understand what the problem is. But I am continually shocked, guys, at how many people who absorb this sport more casually don't understand how jacked December is. Because it's one thing when, it was a little alarming that Marshall's like, hey, we committed to a bowl, we accepted the bid. By the way, the leagues don't look good when this happens. Like the Sun Belt was not happy because of their relationship with the bowl system. But at the end of the day, everyone understands that those bowls are exhibitions. No one's really going to fault anybody. Quinn Ewers ended up being the focus for Texas last year. We're an injury away from a sort of unavoidable truth about how screwed up things are. And I know that Pribula had a run package, and he probably would have seen how many snaps do you think, Richard, if it was a close game?
10, 12.
Right. Which is not nothing. They
played the whole second half against Wisconsin.
Right. Yes, he did see time. Well, that was my decision in writing about it, was like, you looked at his game logs and you're like, this isn't like a kid that's been on the bench all season and completely invisible. So this isn't going to get fixed anytime soon, because the people to fix this would have to organize the sequence of events, and that person or that entity doesn't exist.
Also, I hope and expect Drew Aller's good health in this game.
Yes.
But quarterback uprightness, very important. SMU's most underrated trait as a team, in my opinion, because people talk a lot about the offense, is the defense and especially the pass rush. They got a whole brigade of them, whole brigade of guys, edge rushers, even tackles, who can really get after a QB. Elijah Roberts, probably the best, former Miami guy who's at SMU now. I don't think that SMU is going to have much offensive success in this game. I think Abdul Carter, unless the world's most permissive officiating occurs and they just never flag holding in this game, I think Abdul Carter is going to hit Kevin Jennings a lot here. But SMU could complicate things for the Penn State offense as well. So the rock fight thing, again, is in play.
About that, Preston Stone is staying with SMU. So Preston Stone, should Kevin Jennings have a hangnail in this game, Preston Stone can play. Preston Stone will be called upon, even though he is going into the portal or probably already officially in the portal and moving on.
It's very as wild as Indiana is. If you have ever met a group of SMU alumni boosters and check that average income, it makes total sense in the world of NIL that SMU is in the playoff. I'll put it that way.
I can't imagine.
I'm laughing at them retaining their backup while Penn State loses theirs. Like SMU can spend a problem away.
Yeah, and I don't want to do a whole calendar thing because we've done that episode before, but like
several times.
I don't know if it's a shortened spring practice and kick spring practice back, like kick spring practice a little bit backwards, maybe into May, which then you run into graduation stuff, whatever. But like kick spring practice maybe a little bit backwards, where it ends at the end of April, and then you maybe do this in February, or you do all this in February and get rid of or at least I don't know. But yes, a mess. It's a mess.
Why can't it be? I know there's going to be answers immediately. I know why it's so jacked up. I can explain it to other people because there's no governance and no one's in charge, and there's conflicting interests, and now there's legal rulings. And there's also this idea of like, are they labor or are they not, down to the interpretation of it. But there really just has to be a single window for transfers.
It's not while everybody is preparing for the championship.
Correct. Like there just has to be a postseason probably pre-spring, Richard, maybe window for this to happen.
There's going to have to the real bugaboo is going to
the
be
benefit
school enrollment. Yes,
yeah, to the benefit of the player. And then also like signing might be the second conversation we have. I'm starting to think December wasn't a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, look, if Kevin Jennings gets them in a hole again, like they did against Clemson, I think Penn State is able to finish the job in this game in a way that Clemson was not able to.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Penn State's defense is the best unit in this game, and for that reason, it would take some messing up for Penn State not to be okay. But it's kind of like Indiana, and I think we talk a lot about the Indiana offense as the big trait of their team, and I think people think about SMU the same way. You think of Rashard Smith, you think of Jennings. I don't think SMU can actually move the ball here. I do think they can get some sacks and perhaps put Penn State behind the sticks. So that's why if Penn State loses, this is going to be a rough one. They shouldn't lose this game. They should not on their own field. Like
Alex, I was going to try and transition out. It is funny that I feel so confident about three snoozers when I am relying on Penn State and I am relying on Texas. Postseason Penn State, postseason Texas. And yet I feel so confident.
Worried about SMU's defense in the red zone. You would think that Penn State at times can run out of real estate and not get the ball in the end zone, but SMU is vulnerable with red zone defense. You can finish drives on SMU. And there is the concern, frankly, that happened to them against Clemson, which is when you ratchet up competition, what happens? And they're about to ratchet up competition again from Clemson, a step above Clemson. You know, SMU has gotten away with it at some times this season. Nobody on this podcast is anti them in the playoff. What happens on Saturday is not a referendum on whether they belong or not. But
same goes for every team, by the way.
Yes, same goes for every team. But there's a smacking possibility here.
Sure. But that involves a confidence in Penn State that I have lost.
Last piece on Penn State, and I understand that you're going to think I'm trying. Here's the guy in the Pitt home field hoodie trying to bring down.
Went
Penn
to
State.
Maryland.
Yeah, correct. But Maryland is not a rival of Penn State. They literally do not care. Whereas
James
I think
Franklin
they do
cares.
care about Pitt more than they admit.
James Franklin.
But you did just see that this Penn State offense go shot for shot with Oregon to where they were down.
Yeah,
what were they down? 17?
Yes.
In the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah.
All right, last 2 points for me on this game. One, thing to watch for SMU. They have covered tight ends pretty well this year. They gave up one 90-yard tight end game this year. early on.
This tight end.
They have not seen this tight end, but for the most part, it seems like their linebackers and safeties can get on a tight end and prevent him from doing a lot. Tyler Warren, different than most tight ends. Second piece is, and I do love a little narrative. Godfrey, I know you do too.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State, in order to get to the Orange Bowl and the semifinal here, needs to beat a team that until a year ago was in the American Athletic and a team from the Mountain West. If they don't do it, it's going to be a bummer. Says nothing about how good Boise actually is. I think that's a pretty good matchup. Says nothing about how good SMU actually is. It's just the teams that Penn State can't beat historically of late are Michigan and Ohio State. And so if SMU or Boise keeps them from that round of the playoff, man, are there going to be some unhappy people with James Franklin after that happens.
Dude, what, like, if I'm SMU, certainly easier said than done. Triple coverage on Tyler Warren if he goes to the bathroom and just somebody else beat me. Like, dude, the guy's got double the targets of everybody else on this team. Like, it's just, if you're SMU's defensive coordinator, you just got to be like, somebody else is going to beat me. Damn it, somebody else beats me. And they run the ball for 300 yards. Or doggone, Harrison Wallace has the game of his life, but it's just not going to be Tyler Warren.
If that's how you die, that's how you die. If
doggone?
Harrison Wallace does that.
Have some pride.
Did you just say doggone?
I did.
You got to hang out with fewer sports writers.
Have some pride, SMU. It can't be him.
Later in the day, number 12 Clemson at number 5 Texas. Richard, can you draw? I have a really hard time drawing a path, but can you?
What? Why?
For
Clemson,
Clemson,
not that good. Like,
well, for me, it's because I think Clemson's offensive line is going to get whipped.
yeah, I would agree with that.
That's matchup. That's the matchup one.
Like, I just watched this Texas team beat A&M 17-7.
You're right.
And Arch was the guy who scored the touchdown, or the first touchdown. This is not a bit. It's not like Arch me in this game. Arch heavy. Like, what do you have in this game with Quinn Ewers that you haven't seen? The screens, the tight end stuff, a moon ball every now and then, but you get in the red zone and this against good teams at least, and this offense is it just can't throw the ball. Like, he just doesn't have it. So I like what Texas has done on defense. Everybody does. If Texas goes on to win this national championship and win this tournament, it's because of their defense, quite frankly, because I think the defense has been outstanding. I mean, the defensive backs that Texas have, I mean, it's lights out, no fly zone with Jade Barron and Andrew Makuba. So, it's serious business there.
Yeah.
I think they're better on defense this year than they were last year, but I just think they're more balanced on defense. They're more balanced back to front on defense than they were last year. Washington, what happened in that Washington game happened. So, the upset is certainly on the board here. What is the line here? Do you
about
have it?
12.5.
Yeah,
I think it is. Yeah.
You're right, because Clemson's not going to score is the thing here. But
yeah,
A&M didn't score either, and it was at least a game. It was at least.
No, you're right. You're right. And TJ
something.
Parker is a great edge rusher, and Quinn Ewers is Quinn Ewers, and you could certainly talk me into Texas also not scoring. I just think that when Clemson has the ball, Vernon Broughton, Alfred Collins, the edge rushers, Simmons, Sorrell, like the stuff that we've worried about for Clemson for years, even when they were at the top, still applies. Like, they still don't really produce. I mean, granted, who does? They don't produce a lot of offensive line depth, and it's been a problem for them. And so Garrett Riley's got a big job this week. Like, can you figure out how to get Cade Klubnik into some green grass the way that he did in a couple of key spots for them in the regular season? Maybe. But if he's just dropping back 30 times, I don't know. And they also don't have a great run game despite Phil Maffa being very highly regarded. So I think there's a theme emerging actually as I talk through it. The path for the visitors to win these games is rock fight. That's it in all of them.
Yeah. And I know I doubt there will be weather in this one. I mean, it's Austin. I'm sure it'll be cold, but like I doubt there's going to be weather in this one like there's going to be weather in the other two.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like it's going to be like there is snow on the ground in Happy Valley right now. And it looks like there's at least a chance in Indiana as well.
Yeah. Kelvin Banks did play in the SEC championship game, the future first-round tackle for Texas. I think he won a couple of the lineman awards at the end of the season there. He's going to play, but I don't think he's completely healthy. So maybe as you go over ways that this could break bad for the Horns, you would stop there. I'm pretty skeptical, but we'll see. Also, Tyler Brown for Clemson was back for the ACC championship game, and DeMonte Capehart back the week before. So Clemson is sort of rounding into more of a picture of health as they get to this point.
I just think Texas just run the piss out of the ball. Just absolutely run the piss out of the football. Worked against A&M.
Man, we were setting up some exciting narratives, some exciting football. Snoozer, mash, run the piss out of it.
You know, I think that's the formula here. Take the ball out of Quinn Ewers' hands.
Night game, Saturday. Number 9, Tennessee at number 8, Ohio State in the shoe. Obviously, this will be the Nokian Tires road trip of the week. Spoiler alert, I think Wes Bowling, our resident Vol at Nokian, might have put his thumb on the scale in selecting this one to be the road trip of the week.
Oh, Alex,
might as well use it.
Reports indicate that Wes Bowling may or may not be on the fence. He may be in attendance.
Ooh.
Is that so?
Yeah. Per another bowling, I think the bowlings plural are considering just being like, let's go.
Are there going to be a lot of orange shirts at that stadium?
Yes.
Oh, so yes, this is a thing.
Yes. Tell me about that.
This is a confident city right now, y'all.
Yeah.
More so than, I mean, so next year's 19 years for me in Nashville, which is crazy. Like by far, highest level of confidence. By far.
Which is crazy.
Right. I don't want to say anything.
Like, it's like, this is not the team to do that. Like, you
drew a bad matchup, but I appreciate that you're feeling yourself again. Good for you.
Yeah, they are.
Boy.
There are reports that some people say maybe 60-40 Scarlet to burn orange or to Tennessee Orange.
Coming. Yeah,
they are buying up all the tickets on the secondary market and social media, this and that, social media campaign to checkerboard Ohio Stadium and all this sort of stuff. I think it'll probably end up being fine in the end because it usually does when this kind of thing happens. But Tennessee fans travel. We do know that.
Oh, it's not going to matter. I mean, like in the football sense,
you say that it doesn't not matter.
Rocky Top will be audible, but it's not like Will Howard not be able to hear himself.
Yeah, but have some wonder, Steven. It could matter.
Some wonder.
I don't think it matters.
Yeah,
I think once you breach the top 20 programs in college football by size or 30, that home field advantage and home field noise is a PR stunt at best because. Like if Ohio State hasn't played in front of an aggressive crowd or a loud crowd or a 50-50 crowd before, same for Tennessee. Like I do think a lot of that is wash. Like same goes for Georgia, same goes for Texas. Like you're used to these environments. And so if you're Alex, what are you proposing that their home crowd isn't as loud as they need it to be? Like it's pretty fucking silent in the last game.
Here's where it might matter. Your eyes are about to roll into the back of your head, and mine normally would too. Okay. But just let me finish the sentence. I think Herb Street might have had a point about how Ohio State fans are going to respond if things start to go negatively for them in the first half of this game.
Dude, if they
could be very toxic.
Oh, you mean
if they go 3-and-out? Yeah. If they go 3-and-out the first possession, people are going to boo. Like I'm not. They're going to boo.
But
I don't. Newsflash: I think Ohio State's going to win this game by 2 scores. Tennessee's not going to score. Nobody has scored on Ohio State besides Oregon. Nobody. Ohio State's defense, if they win the national championship,
it's the best defense in the country.
Ohio State's defense is the reason they're going to win the national championship, which is insane because of what they have on offense. But
it's just the point. Everything's been an emotionally informed conversation, understandably so. You lost to the one team you didn't want to lose to. I get it. There's a streak involved. I totally get it. I understand what a rivalry is. I understand what a big rivalry is. They gave up 13 points in that game. Short fields too.
It ain't the defense's fault.
That's what I'm saying. There is there's a path to victory here if you get your head out of your ass on the other side of the ball. I will say though, Richard, like as consistent as that defense was against not great Michigan offense, it was a remarkably uncreative offensive effort in that game.
No, and Chip needs to wear that, and I think he has.
Like that was the last thing I expected. If anything, I thought they'd be too cute.
Yes.
Let me draw the picture for what could be interesting when Tennessee has the ball. I think Nico Iamaleava is going to have to be a big boy this week because Ohio State is probably going to resolve to play defense a certain way, and that's the stopping Dylan Sampson way. Tennessee this year, and this is an interesting stat. Tennessee, according to my pals at Opta Data, faced a heavy box percentage of 26.4%. What's that mean? That just means on 26.4% of their plays, very small amount of their plays, the defense outnumbered the blockers.
But that's because of the width of Tennessee.
Well, yes, exactly. This is the hypo offense at work. The only three teams that get outnumbered less in the box on offense are the three service academies. So Tennessee, because of its spacing and the way that it plays football, is able to create a box advantage. And the primary beneficiary of that is obvious. It's Dylan Sampson. Not saying Dylan Sampson's not really good anyway. He is. But anybody in the world is going to have an easier time running the ball if you have fewer people trying to stop you. I am kind of expecting that Jim Knowles, even with Tennessee's wide splits, that means he can't have those kinds of hybrid guys playing both the run and the pass, is going to try to mitigate that. I don't know if that means Caleb Downs hangs out near the line of scrimmage. I don't know if that means any number of schematic tinkerings that he might do to try to just keep another body close to the line. But I think that Ohio State's approach to this game is going to be, all right, Nico, let's see it. That probably will work well for Ohio State. I would pick Ohio State in that matchup. But you also wouldn't shock me if you have like multiple 70-yard Tennessee completions in this game.
It would shock me because he has not been able to hit a deep ball this whole season, pretty much.
Except he hit the thing is, until he does, like against Alabama, he didn't hit one all day, and then they hit the one to Dante Thornton, and then they win the game.
Hit the one, you know what I mean?
Right, but this could be a rock fight, like we talk about with all these games.
I don't think it's going to be. Are you not worried about the Ohio State offensive line that's only 60% of a line going up against a team with a first-round edge rusher? Not in this game.
Why?
Not even a little bit?
I think Tennessee's
with
been
a backup tackle against James Pierce.
I think Tennessee's been a little bit underwhelming up front, to be honest with you, on defense.
I wouldn't disagree, but the talent's still there, and Ohio State's still hurt.
Certainly, the talent is still there. But I think Tennessee's been a little underwhelming up front on defense. I think Tennessee's defense I think both Ohio State's units are better than both of Tennessee's units in this game.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, okay.
But that was also true. Yeah. That was also true 2 weeks ago, and
yes, and it happened. But I like if you don't have Will Howard turnovers, which I understand, that is asking a bit. I do understand that not having a Will Howard turnover is asking a bit. But I can't, in all good faith, look at what Ohio State has on the field and pick pretty much anybody other than Oregon to beat them in this thing. I'm
not going to bail either because I was with you on Ohio State before the season. There's no point in bailing now. So I'm with you that Ohio State's going to find a way to somehow win it all. But
I think it's to me this
is a dangerous one for them. More dangerous than I think it is than you think they are.
I think it's yes, you're right. I don't think this is particularly dangerous. I think that this is a groupthink, fire Ryan Day, whatever. As you know, I refuse to subscribe to it.
Yes, we discussed this situation with Ryan Day at length.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as to say as I refuse to subscribe to it because I do think that if they were to lose this game, we're going to have a new conversation. Also, like those of you paying attention to the larger show here or the college football cinematic universe might notice that Ross Bjork rarely, and by rarely I mean never, is actually controlling a coaching search or tenure. That's not. It's just a fact. Trust me. Like A&M and Ole Miss will tell you that. So the sort of bravado around him initially, I don't buy at all. But I do think that I side with Richard on labeling most of it as histrionic because it was Michigan. I definitely side. Like, this is still one of the best rosters in college football.
No question. Sucks. At worst, top
offense
3.
just sucked ass in like the worst time possible. That's all.
It is not just playoff season. It is also pothole season. Winter takes a pretty serious toll on road quality. You might have noticed Nokian Tires puts a special fiber in its sidewalls. It helps make them puncture resistant. That is the same fiber found in bulletproof vests, but as we've talked about before on the show, don't test it. No need to shoot at your tires.
Shoot your
Not
cars.
a good idea.
Shoot your cars.
Every tire from Nokian Tires comes with a pothole protection warranty. So if you damage a tire beyond repair, they will replace it. Learn more at nokiantires.com/SZD and keep entering your real and your hypothetical, your desired road trips over the rest of this playoff season. We would love to see them. Nokian would love to see them as well. Richard, we have a more conventional tasting menu for the rest of the college football action this weekend.
We do. We are tasting what's left on the resume. I like we said earlier, these games are kind of all over the map because everything was moved around to satiate what Friday night and Saturday are going to be, right? You'd usually like 5 wide all of these on that first post-Army Navy Saturday, and you're not doing that anymore. So we are going to taste the rest of it. By the time you listen to this game may have already happened. Western Kentucky versus James Madison, which, look, I there was too much going on in the portal to do a portal minute, but how about TJ Finley again in the portal, going to his 5th school, which we'll play Friday, which we'll get to in a second, apparently, Tulane. Western Kentucky plays
5th.
JMU.
My God. Wow.
And JMU also rated in the portal.
Yeah. WKU was 2 schools ago for TJ Finley, right?
Yeah.
Are we doing this again?
No.
It was this. Like, it's literally so many schools that I have to look at.
Wait. Sorry. He was the backup this year for Western Kentucky.
Yes.
Behind Caden Veldkamp, the Conference USA Player of the Year. I forgot that Finley was actually still at Western Kentucky, who is in the portal himself. But
what a name!
But my understanding,
I don't think you can legally
is,
play at Western Kentucky for only. I think after 1 year you have to
be a year. No, I agree. I agree.
You're out.
ESPN,
I completely agree.
His ESPN
Veldkamp's gonna
page,
play.
TJ Finley's ESPN page lists him as junior, which is crazy.
I love this sport. Get that
crazy.
money. Get that money.
Yes, TJ Finley has only played 5 years, though. He's basically a spring chicken in this era of quarterback play.
No. It'll be 5 schools
5+.
in 6 years, right?
Yes, correct.
Yes,
that will make 5 schools in 6 years. He was LSU, he was Auburn, Texas State for a minute, Western Kentucky. Veldkamp's going to play despite being in the portal, I think, though, God, I wouldn't bet my life on that. I think he's playing. Western Kentucky's done this a few times because they are basically just a transfer portal program now. A couple of years ago, I remember Josh Simon, the tight end who wound up at South Carolina, played for them in a bowl game as he was in the portal. Some programs do this, and it's just the way it is, and that's totally fine. I think it's even better than the other way. NOLA Bowl is Thursday. Georgia Southern versus Sam Houston. Godfrey, you could sell me on this one being pretty meaningful. Sam Houston's first bowl game. Georgia Southern third in a row. I think third in 3 years under Clay Helton. Everyone should be happy to be there at this game.
They'll be happy because it's a good bowl. I mean, to go to New Orleans and play in the Superdome. This bowl gained a little esteem in the G5 world because they managed it well. UL played in it a couple times, and it's a big deal for Lafayette people to go to New Orleans. I won't unroll that any further. And so it got hyped on TV. The Superdome is, because of its older structure, it's easy for it to get loud. It's fun. But I think Sam Houston should fill this out pretty well. Whereas I think, I'll be interested to see what the turnout from Southern is, what the engagement level here is, because this is an ultimately disappointing season.
Yeah, the Sun Belt East was there for the taking.
Like getting clipped by Marshall at the end. Like, I think that stings a lot of people, especially with the year that App had. This was your window.
On Friday, Cure Bowl between two interim coached portal ravaged teams, Ohio
games, man.
and Jacksonville State.
Yeah.
Yeah, tough when teams are kind of falling apart. But, you go out there and you play, and I hope it's enjoyable for the players who are there. Jacksonville State can be fun if everyone's playing, but I don't think they are.
Yeah, these things are nearly impossible to prognosticate when you're down. It used to be down coaching staffs. Now you're essentially down rosters or down starters. And
No, rosters. Rosters is the word.
Well, yeah, I was going to be generous and say some schools still have some starters, but like at this level, it's a mess. And so the idea of trying to predict what's going to happen just seems insane to me.
Agreed.
But to your point, Alex, like, yes, I do think Jacksonville State is a fun team if they were intact.
Agreed. Trying to prognosticate these games is ridiculous to me. I'm not anti-betting. Like, if that's your thing, do it. We've talked about it in years past on the show. We've done partnerships. But if you're betting like spreads or something on non-playoff bowl games, like, come on, man. Index funds. Index funds.
Non-playoff bowl games or preseason NFL games.
Dude, preseason NFL, the idea that anyone would
there needs to be regulation.
Like, how to bet that is.
I've done it. It's easy.
Dirty.
You do it with the quarterback situation. You see who has the better quarterback depth chart and who's going to actually play their quarterbacks. I've absolutely bet on preseason NFL.
Dude.
If you're on like your stock brokerage and you try to sign up for an options trading account, riskier equities, riskier stock trading, you have to like check some boxes, right? You have to pass like some educational stuff at some places, I think. I think that if you try to bet on the Ohio Jacksonville State Cure Bowl, DraftKings should have to legally show you a little box that's like, are you sure? And then there should be another one. Are you really sure? I'm pro free markets. It's just, let's be reasonable about this. Also Friday, Tulane, Florida in the Gasparilla Bowl. Chance to watch DJ Lagway play football.
That's
Sold.
right.
Great. Fine with that.
That's right.
Tulane is pretty dilapidated here, though.
Well, Mensa's going to play.
Oh, is that so? Good.
Yeah, see, that's the thing.
Good.
Dude.
Alex is getting
This
his
is a
ass
college
whipped by the
football
portal
show.
this year.
This is a college football show with theoretically 3 people informed, and this is the fucking state of it. I'm not being mad. I'm just saying, like, y'all.
No, it just is what it is.
This is
What
the
a
third time.
fucking mess, dude.
This is the third time, and it's not Alex's fault. It's not anybody's fault that like Alex has just missed on some player of like some import.
Yeah,
playing.
Godfrey, last week while you were out, I was doing a whole bit about how I was kind of into Cal's offense next year. I had looked at like 11 o'clock the night before. Like I had checked that Fernando Mendoza hadn't portaled yet, but then he was in the portal by 7 a.m. the next morning. Didn't see it.
I don't hold any of that against you. Like, if you ask me, dude, there's no way I could name players on teams right now. It's like, especially at this level of bowl, it's insane.
Yeah, Lagway v Mensa on Friday.
That's a great non-playoff bowl. I'm into that. I look forward to it. Christmas Eve, the Hawaii Bowl has USF and San Jose State. San Jose State, a lot of fun. I think it's a chance to watch Nick Nash one more time in college football, who's a great ball player. I think he was the best receiver in the country this year. So that's solid. And I love it when the Hawaii Bowl is on Christmas Eve. I think that's its proper place.
No Hawaii.
Yeah, I have a tradition that I've talked about before, like especially when I was at my in-laws before I had kids, like because they would have a big party and like the Hawaii Bowl was like the thing people would just watch casually while drinking. Yeah, you're right. It is the Christmas Eve tradition. You're right.
Yeah, it's
matchups are always weird, but
they are always weird. In 16 of its 23 years, it has been played on the night of the 24th. I enjoy that. It was a long-time Jewish Christmas ritual for me. And I think I'm going to get back to that this year. Absolutely. I think I've talked about this with you before, that Jewish Christmas kind of rocks.
You have
it's a great day.
You made a post for Banner Society that's hilarious.
I wrote about this.
I love that story.
There's no jokes in it.
You go to the rec center.
Absolutely.
And you shoot hoops for a while. You watch the NBA.
All these things.
Solid Verbals Dan Rubenstein was the first person to ever wise me up on this. where he's like, oh yeah, he's like, you get Chinese food and watch the NBA. He's like Jewish and like, and you don't have to talk to anybody. And I was like, I am deeply jealous of this. The tribe has got it figured out, man.
Now, I've been drafted to actually celebrate Christmas for the last long stretch of my life. However, but
because you guys do that to yourself, man. Like,
yeah,
you guys like. I know. I'm trying to think. 1, 2. How many? I mean, I know a ton of them that like you guys marry in and screw it up for yourselves.
Yeah, it's self-inflicted.
You go from having this super chill December to you all marry what's the word I'm looking for? It's the Hebrew word for us. Can't remember.
Gentiles.
You all marry Gentiles.
Really
and
pulled
then
that
you
one.
end up getting drafted into all this bullshit.
Well,
and
anyway,
by bullshit
I
mean our Lord and Savior.
Of course. We have no one respects that tradition.
I'll be at Mass on Christmas Eve. Don't yell at me.
Other things of note: the FCS semifinals. This has been incredibly chalky so far,
buddy.
The top 4 are hanging out. I think we anticipated this. If you've noticed, we've kind of just been like, we'll see at the semis more or less with this.
It's been chalky for too long, in my opinion.
I agree.
There's a pretty nasty separation right now.
There is, and a little wild card being thrown into the mix next year, Godfrey. The Ivy League, they're playing.
I'm excited.
In the FCS playoffs. This, honestly, I think it's good in multiple ways. I think the Ivy League, get out of your own ass. It's time to go compete. You got the teams for it. And this could also introduce a little bit of variance into a tournament that has come to lack it quite a bit.
I would like to see the SWAC and MEAC, the Ivies, mix with a Big Sky, Ohio and Missouri Valley, all, like let's do the whole pot. Let's put the whole thing in. I
more favor, to the extent that they want to continue to do it, the SWAC and the MEAC playing the Celebration Bowl. I think there are numerous reasons for it, and it's not just the TV dollar, that they contest the Black National Championship that way.
Do both.
But I am fully with you on the Ivies.
I would find a way to do both or create it as a conference championship substitute, because I don't think that's it. I do think it's better for the SWAC and the MEAC to participate in the FCS bracket and just for exposure and everything else and quality of play. Goy, not Gentile. Goy. Sorry.
There it is.
I'm on a 4-minute delay. I'm sorry. My Hebrew is rusty. I don't want to get the messages about the Black National Championship. I'm not going to do that thing where I'm telling.
No, I know you get it. You're from Mississippi. I know you get it. Yeah.
No, but like the bracket, I just think I love the idea of, think about like a Jackson State, Montana State. Who won the Ivies this year, Alex?
The Ivy was split up this year, as it usually is.
They do it like the Premiership.
It's always split up.
Okay,
this year's Ivy
what I'm saying,
League
just throw one out. Like imagine
Harvard,
having
Harvard, Dartmouth, and Columbia 3-way.
Okay, all right, nerds, figure it out. So let's say like you have Harvard, Jackson State, Montana State, East Kentucky, SEMO, and like of the moment, Sacramento State, like all of that on one side of a bracket. I think like shit, that's cool. And also the varieties and styles between all of those different regions. I think like that's what I want.
One of my favorite historical college football games ever. I think I had just been born, actually. I was very young, but I've read about it and watched some things from it. Was the 1994 Alcorn at Youngstown State FCS playoff game where Steve McNair should have won the Heisman that year.
Yes.
And then he went and had to play in this frigid cold. He actually got kind of hurt in that game. It didn't go that well. But the stylistic clash that you're talking about, this would have been a few years before you moved to Mississippi for college, I would think.
So it's funny you mentioned that, because I used to collect and stack Sports Illustrateds when I was like, I got a gift subscription. And this is back when Sports Illustrated came out every week. And it was like, I got one. Like, I had, for some reason, Phil's on my desk. It was like Phil Thick every week, like this.
Phil Steele. Yep.
Alcorn State, Steve McNair was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I was still a kid in DC from Alcorn State. And the headline was "Hand Him the Heisman." And that's back when SI had like what clout beyond clout. That was a really big deal for HBCUs at the time. So I remember that. And also I think that game was on national television.
believe you're correct.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it didn't
30
go
years
very
ago,
well
so
for Alcorn,
I
but
don't know.
McNair threw for a ton of yards and a loss. I think it's other than maybe Burrow's 2019 or Cam's 2010. I think it's a top 3 college football quarterback.
Dude,
the
Penguins used to be a wood chipper, especially in playoff time. They were tough.
Yep, they were tough. I believe their coach at that time was Jim Tressel, though I
think you're right because it would have been 94. We said,
yeah.
I think
I'm saying that one in real time. Fact checkers, you'll get on me
Cooper
on this
would have
one.
been. Yeah, Cooper still would have been in.
Yeah,
Ramsey yell at us.
Anyway, the actual games here: Dakota Marker game hosted by North Dakota State, where they beat South Dakota State a few weeks ago in Fargo. Should be a fight. The word rock fight gets used for the 7th time on this episode. Yeah, you know how it is. Last one was 13-9. These two teams, like the script has flipped in that, generally speaking, South Dakota State has the upper hand now, but it could go either way. It's the game of the week. It's the game of the year. It's a bigger game than the national championship game in certain respects. Though obviously there's a little bit less on the line. And then number 1 seed is Montana State against the number 4 seed South Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
Montana State, a real threat. And Montana State has not, we've talked about the struggles of the otherwise really good teams in the Big Sky and the Missouri Valley to actually get to the top of the mountain in FCS. Well, this is Montana State's opportunity to go ahead and do that. They were in the national championship 3 years ago against North Dakota State and got blown out by one of the Matt Entz NDSU teams, and they won it in 84. But in general, they've been kind of just a small sliver below the top, and now they got a chance to be the top.
We'll touch on this on the subscriber shows, but like we might have another logjam in college football that doesn't have to do with the players and the rosters, but like if you're Brent Vegan, I can tell you for a fact you've been passed over for jobs that are open this cycle because like you can't leave. He's the head coach of Montana State, number 1 seed. Like you can't leave.
Not literally a vegan, as far as we know, that we could.
No, I have botched his pronunciation so many times. I know. Yeah, I botched the pronunciation so many times, and then someone finally on social was like, "You're saying it right half the time. It's vegan, like vegan, doesn't eat meat or dairy." So that one's interesting because Ince last year, and I said this on a single wing. Ince was like North Dakota State was a very low seed last year. Then they went on a playoff run. I don't know if you guys remember this. And so Ince agreed to be the co-DC assistant head coach, I think was his title for Lincoln at USC. It basically said, when the season's over, I'm going. But we also were everyone, I think including the Bison, were under the impression like they might get bumped the first, second round team, and then they ended up making a run. And then he left, but it was announced. And now he's the head coach at Fresno State. If you're like a really good coach and you have a 1 or a 2 seed and you play chalk, which is what we just said the bracket does, might be prohibitive to your coaching future. Kind of the screwed up thing that's going on.
Yep, because you're in it until well into January at this point.
Yeah, and Montana State has sent like Jeff Choate was Montana State's head coach, went and did the assistant track at Texas, and then now he's the head coach at Nevada. So there's a path here. It's one that is detrimental.
Lower level playoffs, Division II, Division III, NAIA, JUCO, things of that nature. Valdosta State, Ferris State, national championship game D2. You might think, I've heard this before. It is because you have heard it before. These teams played a crazy game in 2018. Same stadium, the big high school palace in McKinney, Texas, that you've no doubt seen, with Valdosta winning that game 49-47. They rematched in 2021. Ferris beat them up to start a run of winning 2 titles in a row. They're kind of the 2 teams in Division II right now. This was a fun year in D2. Yeah,
I would keep in mind Tremaine Jackson, who is the head coach of Valdosta State, is a name to note for the future. He will be a bright young coach. I guess technically he'd be minority coach of the week in an interesting schematic spot if we were doing that in the postseason.
Hey, let's do it. Not a predictor of success, I understand, but
it's just simply taking a coach in a certain schematic spot and saying, that's interesting. And being in a national championship game is certainly interesting for Valdosta State. They've been really good the last 2 or 3 years since he's taken over.
Valdosta State, coaching cradle, sort of.
Yeah. Oh, it really is. Yeah. Oh, to that point, Valdosta is playing in its 4th national title game since 2012. And I believe that they are doing this. This was credit to NCAA.com's writer, who wrote up a really good history capsule of these two teams. 4 different coaches in those 4 title games since 2012. Means you're doing something right programmatically, the way that you build the Valdosta State Blazers. Sammy Edwards, quarterback for them, maybe the best player in D2, finalist for the Harlan Hill back-to-back years. They're going for an unbeaten season. It's going to be fun. Power on power. Best possible matchup for that level, and they're building a bit of a rivalry against each other. Division 3, it's the semifinals. Susquehanna against North Central and Johns Hopkins against Mount Union. Stag Bowl is on January 5th. That's right, football on a Sunday. What will they think of next? In the NAIA ranks, Kaiser, that's from Florida, scored 21 in a row in the fourth quarter to beat Benedictine of Kansas, 42-38 in their semifinal as the number 1 team in the country. Exciting stuff. Grandview, number 2 in the bracket in NAIA, beat Morningside in an all-Iowa blowout to claim their spot in the title game. This game is in Durham, North Carolina, live stream on the NAIA network. If you're looking for an extra screen on Saturday in the midst of the big playoff day and a couple of NFL games. I also looked, the Steelers play on Saturday. I'm going to have to set up a third screen.
You know what they're doing, right? The 4 teams that play on Christmas play each other in a different alignment on Saturday, so the NFL can pretend that it's the same amount of short week rest that a normal Thursday to Sunday week would be, Saturday to Wednesday. I mean, even though those teams would have also been coming off of a relatively short week on a Sunday to Saturday, but it's the NFL.
Yes, and in the junior
Stop
college
playing
ranks,
games when you're not supposed to.
It's the NFL.
Tonight, as we record this, we're recording on Wednesday, so who knows when you listen. Hutchinson of Kansas against Iowa Western of Iowa for the D1 junior college title game in Canyon, Texas. That's at 8:30 Eastern. It's an ESPN Plus game, not difficult to find, and a lot on the line. National championship game. One natty already won. Black national title in Division 1 goes to Jackson State, which wins 28-7 over SC State in the Celebration Bowl. Clearly, the best HBCU team this year, not close, Jackson State. They go 12-1 against FCS competition. Good coaching job by TC Taylor, doing what even Deion Sanders could not do there. Deion went 0-2. He ain't swag. That's what they say. Deion Sanders could not summit the Celebration Bowl. Lost a couple of times, including to this very same SC State program. But SC State was coached for a long time by a Southern ball coaching legend, Buddy Pugh, who beat Deion in one of the Celebration Bowls. Pugh retired after last season. And then in his first year replacing him this year, the new South Carolina State coach, Chennis Berry, goes and wins the national title. So big stuff for SC State. Also, the ratings were huge for this game. Seems like the Celebration Bowl is doing well. Relates to our discussion about what the MEAC and the SWAC are going to do with their postseason. As the Ivy League just showed, it's kind of a living organism. You can kind of change these things as you go. We will see. A lot of football, fellas. Fun time of year. You said December's a bad sports month? I don't know about that.
Yeah. College football. I said it's a bad sports month outside of college and pro football. It's a bad sports month.
You're correct.
So then it's a good sports month because you have every league playing except baseball.
Outside of college football.
Bad weird take.
Bad sports month.
See you soon. Head over to splitzoneduo.com. Subscribers, you'll get more episodes in the very near future. We're actually off to record one for you right now about some movements in the coach world and what we think about them. Thanks for listening.